talk about the importance of learning songs all the way through, by the way, and also the kinds of things that I do to teach myself songs. So that's what we've got on the docket. Welcome to my journal. Let's get started. Most of us, if not all of us, know that one of the most important things during our practice and learning process is to learn how to play songs. Mostly I'll lean on YouTube. Now I do know probably one of the most valuable ways that you can learn songs is by teaching yourself. However, I also know as a 40-year beginner who's moving into intermediate territory, it's hard to transcribe a song by yourself. It's actually really hard, but it's a great teaching method. So I highly encourage you when working on easier songs that you kind of try and teach yourself it without having to fall back on the crutch of YouTube or books or things like that. That said, one of the latest songs that I've been working on is by Fleetwood Mac, and that one was a little bit hard for me to be able to figure out on my own, especially because it used a style that I'm not really familiar with, which is finger picking. And so I wanted to use that one as an example, and I'll show you. So I'm gonna pop up now on YouTube and show you a neat feature that I've found, and that is that you can slow down the playing of a specific song and run it at 50% or 75%. You can even do 25%. I don't mess with that one because I feel like it makes the song almost, you can't understand it anymore when you get down to that slow. But I definitely use 50% when I'm first starting out. And then I like to shift to 75 as soon as I can, because to me, 75 really sounds like the song. I mean, obviously it's slower or whatever, but 75% of speed is pretty accessible for me for feeling like the groove of the song and everything. And yet at the same time, it makes it so that I can play along with it. When I first started learning the finger styles for Landslide, the Fleetwood Mac song that I'm working on, I understood what the Travis pick was, but I didn't really know it that well. So going at a much slower pace was much easier for me than going at speed. Getting that finger style down and getting the motions, knowing what fingers to hit and everything was much easier for me at a slower speed. Later on I could speed it up until I got to the song's actual speed. And actually, the way that I broke the song down was, because the verse is obviously different than the chorus, and in this song it even has a pre-chorus part that is a little bit tough and tricky. So what I did was I only learned the verse first, because this made it easier for me to understand the song, and I was able to practice at a certain point. And the way that I learned the verse, actually, because I was doing finger style, and I'm not very good at finger picking, I first just learned the chords. So I would just strum the chords along with the song. And that way, I wanted to know the chords and the chords that I was shifting to almost so that I didn't even have to think about it. You know what I mean? What do they say? Knowing it like the back of your hand, or being able to play it in your sleep. I wanted to be like that with the chords, so that when it came time to do the finger style, right, which is tough for me, I knew at least my left hand would know what it's doing, if that makes sense to you. But so I worked and worked and worked just on the chord changes so that I could talk while I was doing the chord changes. And that way I knew if I could play these without even thinking about them, that when it came time to do this part, I'd be able to do that easier because I already knew the chords really well. So the first thing that I did was, like I say, I learned the chords. Next, I just learned the finger style, and I didn't make any chord because I just wanted to learn what was I doing over here, you know? And I have a tendency, at least in the past, to take shortcuts, and I didn't want to do that this time. And I know that utilizing two of my fingers along with my thumb is actually the proper way of playing this style. The thumb does the bass on the Travis pick, so it just goes back and forth between the A and D string. And then the pointer finger plays the G string, and the middle finger plays the B string. So you've got this pattern that goes. And I wanted to get used to that pattern before I implemented chords. Then what I did is I just put the C chord, which is the main chord of the verse, and played that for a while. So it was important to me this time. I promised myself I am going to learn this thing all the way through without any shortcuts or without any cheating. And so I just worked on that for a while. Then I introduced the chorus. Now, as I mentioned, there's a pre-chorus, and for me that pre-chorus was a little bit tough because it includes moves with the pinky over here and down on the high E. So instead of doing the pre-chorus, I moved right to the chorus and basically just taught myself that, because the chorus includes the low E string. And that was different for me because now I had taught myself the Travis pick, but I was only in these four strings, the A, D, G, and B. And now I was suddenly going to be adding the low E and then skipping the A. So one part of the song just goes. Breaking it down into chunks, right? Learning the verse first and then learning the chorus, it made it much easier, because if you just throw a whole song at yourself, especially as a 40-year beginner, it's going to be overwhelming. So instead, like I say, I chunked it down. The verse was pretty easy to handle, and I did that part. And I even broke that into chunks, right? By doing the chords first and just strumming them. And then adding the finger style, and then changing to the chorus, which still uses the same stroke pattern but on different strings, so it's a little bit of a change. So I broke that into a separate area, and then finally the pre-chorus, which was probably the toughest part for me. Little thing right there was actually pretty tough for me. There's a hammer on, you're using your pinky, and so I left that for last because I got really comfortable with my picking style, right? I started with the easiest thing, which was the verse and the simple picking style. Then I went to the chorus, which was a little bit more complicated, but by now my picking pattern had gotten pretty strong. And then I went to the pre-chorus, which I considered to be the toughest part of the song. And I feel like it was easier to learn because I'd already sort of really gotten comfortable doing the Travis pick. And so another really important part of learning it was listening to the song itself. By listening to it on a regular basis, you know, in my car or in the shower, stuff like that, just like times when you normally would listen to music, what I do is I pick songs that I'm working on instead of just arbitrary random songs. And listening to it and getting my ear worked up too, right? Because now I know when I'm playing it, if I do something wrong, if I do a wrong chord change, I instantly know, oops, that wasn't the right point, because I know the song. But if I didn't know the song, I may not pick up on that. So that's really how I break it down into chunking, and then also with listening. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is I also do a good bit of note taking. So this is my daily journal that I keep, where I write down all of the work that I've been doing and everything. And I feel like it's really important to me, you know, because I can go back through it and see where I am with the song and the kinds of things that I've been running into. I also have blank music staff, but I don't tend to use this that much because I don't really read music. I know the staff and I know reading music and everything. What I do is I also have a tab book which has chord pattern, like blank fretboard for chord writing down here. I find this book is my favorite for transcription because it gives me the opportunity not only to write the chords and put lyrics in, but if there are notes that I need to know, right, then I can write them using tab. And so this is really important for me because with tab, I feel like you're getting closer to the song in guitar. You guys have heard me say it before, but I prefer tab over the regular musical staff because it tells you exactly where on the guitar you're playing, where a musical staff doesn't do that. This is basically what I do to learn a song. I feel like it's one of the most important parts of our practice as we're moving into becoming intermediate players and on to advanced players, would be to learn songs. And obviously, like I said early on, transcribing is going to be your best bet for building upon your practice. But at the same time, if you get a song like Landslide, I wasn't familiar with finger picking, and it uses a capo, so it would have fouled me up anyway, because if I didn't know that they were using a capo, I'd be trying to find these chords, and that would be like a world of hurt for me. So I had to fall back on YouTube. But with easy songs, I think that it's important that you try and transcribe them yourself. And try the chunking method that I'm talking about if you're not already doing that in some form or fashion, because I find that just by breaking it down as opposed to playing the whole song from beginning to end. And by the way, that reminds me, once I know a certain part of a song, I only practice that maybe like every now and then, or throw it in. You know, I don't play the whole song all the way through unless I'm sitting down to do that specific task. Instead, I practice the parts that I'm working on that I'm struggling with. And I find that that's much easier and that's chunking, as opposed to each day playing the song from beginning to end only one time. Instead, there'll be one, maybe 3 measure part of the song with 3 chord changes that I'm struggling with, and I will play that 15 times. And I can fit that in the same time that I would have done the song beginning to end. I'd much rather play that for that entire time that I would have been playing the song and just work on that one aspect of it and kind of perfect it before moving on. And my plan is to continue learning songs from beginning to end, so that when I pull out the guitar and play, like, I'm not a professional musician. I just want to play for my friends and family and stuff, maybe an occasional gig or something like that. But all of those things are going to require knowing a song from beginning to end. So that's my recommendation for this week. Keep doing what you're doing with minor pentatonic. Soon we're going to be making a shift. Actually, I've got plans for my next week's journal entry to make a shift to doing major pentatonic, which is also going to include the major scale. So we're ready to shift out of minor pentatonic. We won't stop practicing it. You'll still practice, especially any shapes that you're not comfortable with. But at the same time, we're going to be making moves into other areas. So thanks for hanging with me. I hope everybody's staying safe and healthy. And I hope to see you guys next week. Like, subscribe, and share with your friends. See ya.